The Blind Tony Story, Book 6, Chapter 4. Time has certain laws that are just as immutable as the law of gravity. You can't bring the past into the present, and you can't take the present or the past into the future. Nevertheless, I tried to do both. At first, things were lovely. Azra got to know her brother and sister as well as her mother again. Up to that point in time, all she had ever known was me. I also got to feel the love and closeness of family once again. But somehow, everything was slightly different. It was like Superman in Bizarro World. Everything in Smallville had a Bizarro counterpart, an exact replica, a mirror image that was exactly the same, but somehow slightly different. There was something lurking beneath the unbroken calm, more deadly than any shark or sea monster could ever be. And it was my addiction. It was watching and waiting just for the right time to strike. They have a saying in the rooms of alcohol and Narcotics Anonymous. They say that addiction is insidious. Insidious means that it has the power to remain dormant for as long as it takes till it deems the moment just right to resurface and conquer. They also say that during that time, addiction is in the gym doing push-ups and taking steroids so that it can be that much stronger the next time you see it. Anyway, I started dipping again. I didn't want Ravenisha to know, so I would bring my whole paycheck home, but I had been accumulating stocks and I started liquidating them. And when that money was gone, I took out a bank loan. And when that money was gone, I took out another loan from the credit union that allowed me to pay off the bank loan and still have a nice piece of change left over. The credit union setup was sweet. It enabled me to have an arrangement where I only had to pay back $50 out of each paycheck, which I wouldn't even see and I wouldn't even notice, wouldn't even miss. But everything done in the darkness eventually comes to the light, and this was no exception. The bank and stock statements were sent home, and Ravenisha saw them. She was forgiving and patient with me, and even now, I can find no fault in her actions at all. I had just gotten another promotion at Merrill Lynch, but once again, I had to approach my supervisor and ask for another leave of absence due to my addiction. And once again, I was given the okay. I decided to enter Project Return. Now, Project Return is a long-term residential therapeutic community, just like Phoenix House. But the wearing of signs and the shaving of heads had been outlawed by this time. It was an 18 to 24-month program, and after I had been there for about 9 months, I was sent out for a strength for someone who needed to go to the emergency room. Now, a strength is an escort who is responsible to make sure that all program protocol is adhered to. He maintains constant contact with the facility at all times, and he makes sure that no program rules are broken. However, the emergency room wait in the Bronx is an all-night affair. So as the hours went by, we both became restless. He asked me if he could call his girlfriend, and I said yes. In fact, while he was calling his girlfriend, I also called Ravenisha. But then a funny thing happened. His girlfriend showed up at the hospital emergency room, and he said he was going back home. Well, it's not too much I could do about that, so I went home and saw Ravenisha and the kids, got me a quickie, and then went back to the emergency room and called the program and told them that the boy had decided to split. So they sent a van to pick me up, and life was good again. Months went by, and I was about to be given workout status. Now, workout status means that I can go back to work at Merrill Lynch, but I was still living the program and save my money up in a special account. because you can't move out of the program until you have at least $2,500 in the bank, a steady job, and your own place. It's a very good program. Anyway, one day I came into the office, and who do I see sitting there but the same kid who had split the program? Now, this is over 6 months later. And they're asking him why he had split, and he's telling them about his trip to the emergency room and how he had called his girlfriend and she wanted him to come back home. And then they asked him, who was stupid enough to let you make a phone call to your girlfriend? And that was me. Everything I had worked for up to that point went down the drain. I was now stripped of all my accumulated time and privileges. I was placed on day one status, and I was given the game. Now, the game is another word for an encounter group. It's a circle in which you are allowed to yell and scream and curse and say anything you want to a person, and they can't say anything back. In fact, they can't even move. They must keep their hands on their knees, remain seated at all times, and must not break the eye contact with the person who's confronting you. The only thing the confronting person can't say is something related to an inborn dignity. For example, if you only have one eye, you can't call them a one-eyed asshole, but they can still call you an asshole. The best players in the house were assembled for my game, including the counselors and the staff members. Wow. I was placed in the middle of the floor on a revolving chair. I was spun back and forth continuously like a top, and I did look every one of my accusers in the eye. It wasn't easy. They said a lot of hurtful things, vicious things, but they were all true. Everything they said was valid. Even the boy who had made the phone call and split gave me the game. He said that I was the reason he had gone back out and shot dope again. Now, while this behavior might not make sense to a lot of people listening to this, it actually serves a very positive purpose. It's called belly control, the ability to feel and process strong, conflicting emotions and not let those strong feelings control your actions. Because you're going to feel like you want to jump up and attack the person who's confronting you and screaming at you, at least to say something back in your own defense. But you learn to let the anger pass, just like you learn that when you feel like getting high, you allow the feeling to pass without acting on it. This is a large part of addiction because feelings are not facts. They come and they go. Then they constantly change. But most addicts are impulsive. They act immediately off what they feel, and they give no thoughts to the consequences, to themselves or to others. I lost everything, but life goes on. I stayed a few more weeks in the program, and then I split. Merrill Lynch took me back once again, and once again they had taken care of my family the whole time I was gone. You can say a lot of different things about the callousness of corporate America and its insensitivity to the poor, but they definitely stood by me. I was given a new position, making even more money, processing stock dividends and due bills. It offered me a new challenge and more diversity. I also had a new supervisor, and I was given a lot more freedom. I also discovered by accident several loopholes in their system. At this point in time, I was able to submit check requests for up to 5 figures without my supervisor's approval. That in itself was quite remarkable. When a problem couldn't be solved by a certain period of time, the deficit will be written off against an overs account, especially designed for that purpose. Now, this satisfies the customer and the auditors because officially the deficit no longer exists. Everybody's happy. However, as I researched old problems and I would find the monies that should have been paid plus the interest that accrued that had already been written off, and I took it back from that account. However, the account that had the deficit no longer had a deficit, so they didn't want the money back. because it would put them over and out of balance, and they wouldn't be able to explain it to the auditors. The account that I took it from wouldn't take it back because they knew it wasn't theirs to start with, and they had only been waiting for someone to claim it the whole time. The overs account wouldn't take it because, according to them, it had already been written off, and it would put them out of balance, and they also wouldn't be able to explain it to the auditors. It officially no longer existed. Wow. So I found myself with hundreds of thousands of dollars that nobody wanted, that nobody would take, and that officially no longer existed. So I diverted those funds into dividend accounts, and then I used them to play the market with. I executed buy and sell trades that netted the dividend department enough money to write off the entire dividend department deficit. I went into my supervisor's office and told him what I had done and showed him how I had done it, and he was furious. He said that not only were we going to get fired, but we were also going to go to jail. But he ended up taking the credit for all my unorthodox but effective exercise of initiative. He also got awarded by his supervisors for a fantastic job well done. I also got rewarded with another raise. Life was good. Christmas came and the bonus checks were given out. I was given 7 paychecks for a bonus. I gave Ravenisha 5 and I kept 2. And then I went to the store to buy a pack of cigarettes. And I stayed gone for 2 weeks. When I got back home, I was broke and very confused. Merrill Lynch had finally had enough, and I got fired. But I had built up such a fine reputation on Wall Street that it was easy for me to find another job. I had been with Merrill Lynch for 6 years straight. I started working for Payne Weber at this point. They offered me quite a bit more money than Merrill Lynch was paying me, plus the opportunity to learn buying interest, which was something I had never done before. But I only lasted a couple of weeks before I relapsed once again. I went on another binge. Ravenisha had bought a car with the checks I gave her, and she suggested that we take a vacation down to see Mom and Dad down in Edenton, North Carolina. Mom and Dad had moved to Edenton after Grandma Mary had died. And even though Aunt Z and Uncle Pen both lived next door to Grandpa, Mom didn't like the way they were taking care of her father. So she wanted to move from New Jersey back to Edenton, North Carolina to take care of her father herself. And Dad loved Mom so much that he didn't hesitate to give up his life in New Jersey to support her and her love for her father. It was good to see them both again. Life was good.